Welcome to the Jeff Miller Show. Each week, Jeff Miller of the Jeff Miller Consulting Alliance talks with Podcast Village host Charlie Burney about trends in business, consulting, and much more. The Consulting Alliance offers strategic counsel and tactical support to businesses, corporations, and nonprofit organizations in the Washington, D.C. area and beyond.
Here we are in Podcast Village Studios again. Hey, Jeff Miller, how are you today?
Hey, Charlie, I'm great. Good to see you again.
It's great to have you here. It's so exciting because we're on iTunes now. I'm incredibly excited for you and for the future of the Jeff Miller Show. So what are we going to talk about today, Jeff?
Well, I thought I'd share with you something that's pretty interesting. If you recall, we did a show about my brother and I going to spring training to see the Mets in Port St. Lucie. Yeah. Exactly. And one of the reasons we went down there, aside from see the Mets, we also wanted to do some strategic thinking about his coming aboard to really work with the nonprofit sector. Mm-hmm. He's got 35 years of experience doing an amazing amount of work as an executive director on fundraising, grant writing, working with the Kellogg Foundation, philanthropy. So on Thursday last week, he came down, and we got to watch the Mets clinch against L.A.
Okay.
And then on Friday morning, we conducted our first focus group. Mm-hmm. And that's sort of just like, the universe coming and making things right. So we thought that's worth sharing.
That's pretty well. There's a lot there, yeah. So we've got a follow up to Mr. Met, and they're perched on the very verge of victory here.
Yes, we are.
Yes. My friend Jerry was talking to me about the Mets. I said, I know, Jerry. It's okay. We're very excited. So
last week I was also awarded the
that's what I want you to talk about.
Solo Proprietor of the Year, recognized by the Corporate Volunteer Council of Montgomery County.
Okay, great.
And when I got up to give my little acceptance speech, I started by saying, on my way here, I was talking to our older daughter who said that you should start the speech, Dad, going, "Let's go Mets." And I told her that would be totally inappropriate.
So you did it anyway?
Absolutely.
I knew you were going to say that. Well, just give me the quick update, and I'll cut it out if you want, but where are the Mets now? What's next for the Mets?
We play tonight against Chicago. If we win, we're up 3.
Mm-hmm. It's tonight. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then another game tomorrow, and then it goes back to Queens.
Okay.
Very exciting.
Well, good. I'm going to try to check in. That's really exciting. Well, let's talk a little bit today about what's next on our agenda, Jeff, for the Jeff Miller Show. And I want to point out, if you are listening to this on iTunes, I have to ask because we're brand new to iTunes. If you're listening, please give us a favorable review. We're just starting out in this new forum and glad to be there. I
think one of the things that's interesting to talk about is success. And I'm not sure that most people have a plan for it, and certainly don't always set the attention for it. Mm-hmm. And when I look at clients of mine who are successful, when I look at other successful businesses, there's always an element of hard work and happenstance crossing. Some people call that good luck. Some people call it an opportunity. Mm-hmm. But the reality is we create our own opportunities. And when you go in recognizing what it is you want to achieve, it's much easier to achieve it, assuming always that you do the work, that you put the work in.
Right.
So, if we go back to our podcast on Norman Rockwell, and all of the preparation that went into something that seemed seemingly so easy. Mm-hmm. We talk about, baseball players constantly practicing in the field, taking ground balls that they've taken since they're 10 years old.
Right. And, the classic overnight success syndrome,
Yeah, it's the 10,000 hours that Malcolm Caldwell talks about.
Exactly.
The Beatles became a success after they played Hamburg and other parts of Europe for 10 years.
Yeah, exactly. Well, those are good highlights to keep affirming, because it reminds you that in order to be a success, and that's why we have to tell that story again, you've got to put in the homework and plow the fields and do the preparatory work for all these things.
Yeah, and I think also something that's very interesting when you talk about success and planting those seeds, it's what are your daily routines? How are you starting your morning? That in and of itself, we can have 3 or 4 podcasts on, because the reality is that when you first wake up the morning, that's really the only time of your day that you have complete 100% control over. Right? So how are you taking advantage of that? How are you using that time to hone your skills? And for different people, it's different things. It could be a meditation.
Right.
It could be exercise. It could be going out for a run. It could be reading passages from a motivational book. It can be anything that puts you into the space of saying, this is going to be a successful, great day because I'm setting it up the right way.
No, I understand. It's so important. I think often forgotten. I try to send the twins out with a smiling word, but they're not ready to hear anything nice from me. But you're right. In order to get back to your point, the focus there is to get off to the right foot. And so many people affirm what you say. Get started, get going, use that time to your benefit. I find when I do make that correct start to the day that you're describing, that it's just so much more effective. There was a period on a dare several years ago when we all got up at 4 a.m. and met at 5 a.m. to do a boot camp. And it's amazing how full your day is after that when you start out with something extremely positive, extremely physical in this case. But it was much more mental than you thought because it got everything working. And then I was sitting ready to go at the end of the whole process.
And I've got a client up in Lancaster where he actually starts his day every day with a 10-mile bike ride.
Wow, that sounds great.
And the key to that or any routine that you establish is consistency. You do it once or twice, do it once a week, it's not going to bear the same results. I meditate for anywhere between 15 and 18 minutes every day. And I know that the days where I don't, I'm a little off balance, a little off kilter. So it's about consistently, like anything else in life, is it's much more important to be consistent than spectacular. McDonald's is not the greatest hamburger in the world, but you know exactly
really
what you're going to get. They're really, really consistent.
That's a good point.
Yeah, and they're run by 16-year-olds who can't clean up their own room.
Well, that's very true. Well, and then
at that point, sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
We can talk about the importance of systems and policies and procedures.
Right. No, and then every time you talk about these things, I think about the expression you mentioned to me in one of our earlier shows, which is self-management. So it's beginning with the ability to give myself the decision, if you will, to do that first thing in the morning after I've made a cup of coffee or what have you. Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's an exciting plan, and so now I want to dive in, and I don't know if you want to tell us, but when someone sets out to create, how about this, Jeff? When someone sets out to meditate and to try to focus themselves, how is it that we can encourage, or is there something we can say positively about what are steps to find the right way to think? Often you can read a book that will tell you how to do it, but I'm sure everyone's routine, what they want to think about, what they want to reassess has got to be different. But how can you get in the right frame to use that amount of time, which is relatively small, to your best benefit? How can I figure out how to do it? So what are a hint you might give? But just thinking out loud, for a person who wants to try meditation, how would you go about having a successful launch?
So here's one of the best advice that I got was from my meditation teacher, Susan Bowen. She owns Thrives Yoga up in Rockville Pike in Rockville. Fantastic. And she told me, don't worry about the thoughts. Don't worry about doing it right. There's no right or wrong way to do it.
That's some of what I'm getting at.
So you just do some breathing exercises, close your eyes, concentrate on something. If you're visualize something.
Right.
And as these thoughts come up, instead of resisting it, just keep on breathing, breathe it in, breathe the thought out. And if that happens 18 times in a meditation, that's fine. Don't just go with it. There's no right or wrong way. And eventually what happens is you do develop the ability to quiet that.
To quiet. That's the key word there.
Yeah. You want to quiet. And that post-meditative benefit is that place you can go to when under stress and bring in some calmness, whether, again, that's through breathing exercises or wherever that might be for you, if meditation is the way.
And it may not be. It may be other things like as simple as doing yoga and not trying to focus on meditation, but doing something that creates a calmness and a stillness.
Yeah, or it could be, I've got another client who has a punching bag in his basement, and he spends, 3, 5, whatever it is, minutes just pounding away at it, gets him into a spot where he says, now I'm ready to face the day. So I make no judgments on how people
So we're resetting our clocks, we're resetting our goals and adjusting. But that's that pivotal morning. So you're doing your meditation, I'm guessing, in the morning.
Yes, when I first wake up.
Yeah. And I read somewhere where a creativity expert that a guy was talking about, this guy will submerge himself underwater for, as long as he can hold his breath, and that's where he comes up with ideas. But it's interesting. There's no right or wrong story. There's no right or wrong way. It could be music. It could be walking, as you said, jogging, whether it's fitness or meditation, or perhaps it's my brother used to do transcendental meditation, and he would say, words under his breath. And there's a million different ways to cook that and figure out what works for you. And it's all part of the journey. So,
yeah, and we all know people who have dream boards, where they cut out things that they aspire to or things that they want.
Right.
Create a dream board, spend 5 minutes in the morning looking at that. It has to be honest to who you are. So
that's the key.
If you're motivated by acquisitions and by materialism, that's great. No judgment. We all like to have nice things. Be true to yourself. I know if I don't do my meditation, I'm not calming myself. And for me, that's important.
Sure.
But we make no judgments. We just request that all people develop some type of routine. And it's so true for entrepreneurs and business owners, especially because our days are so stressful.
Right.
And we never know what's going to hit us. Who's not going to show up? What customer issue are we going to have? What manufacturing problem are we going to have? We need to develop a place to go to.
Right.
And that's what setting up your morning with a routine and a ritual is all about.
So I've written down here then, how can a business meditate? How can we as an organization figure out ways where we can collectively take a breath? Is that through social interaction, through simple methods of team building? I'm wondering how are ways that we can creatively, and then I'm getting back to the Jeff Miller Consulting Alliance. I would think if I was a business owner, I would want to bring in someone to give us all a fresh glass of water, if you will.
Well, I actually did a great client appreciation event 5 years ago, maybe, and it was business, breathing, and meditation. And I actually took we took about 30 clients or so into Thrive Yoga.
That's great.
And Susan led us on a meditation.
Yeah.
And
I like that.
And everybody who was there, regardless of what they thought coming in, walked out saying that was cool.
That was worth the experience.
Yeah. So when you're looking at team building, that's depending on what your corporate culture is, and if somehow contemplative thinking is part of that, or strategic thinking, bring in somebody like Susan. I heard a wonderful interview on mindfulness. A woman's name is Ellen Langer. She's been studying mindfulness for 45 years now. Fascinating stuff. And she goes into corporations all the time. And, team building and giving people real tools. So find what it is for you as a company. But again, it needs to be true and be reflective of what the culture of your organization is.
Right. And that's the same as what we were talking about on an individual level. It can be different. And that's where it's interesting to see what businesses can do to create environments where all, hopefully, of their employees can participate in a positive opportunity. And that's very difficult because often we think, well, the boss is telling us we got to do this. But if you can dance around it and find the right people, the right organization, the right fit, the right activity, whether it is a planned exercise or a ropes course out in the middle of the woods, or
which is a fantastic team building
There are
experience.
different things that I think affect different areas of our brains that we want to trigger. But I know that getting together and doing things in a positive way, whether it's for charity or outside of the office, is so incredibly important.
Yeah, you mentioned rope courses and propelling, and that is one of the more powerful team exercises you can do, because you can only do it successfully if you work as a team.
Right.
And there's always going to be one or two people who are afraid, and when you see the team working with that person, and you see the expressions on their faces, that's a remarkable tool to do that with.
Have you done a ropes course, Jeff? I have done one.
Yeah, I have. It was challenging.
It's very exciting. And then we did what's called, I think, geocaching, where we had to find something. We broke up into teams and had to find something with an RV and a compass, and it didn't really work that well. It was very difficult to do that. But the ropes course is incredibly exciting.
But again, Charlie, it's who you are as a company, because
Right.
I've got another client of mine, Arrow Bookkeeping, Linda Cahill. She's wonderful, and they actually just go bowling.
See, that's exactly a great case in point. And they have probably a pretty good functional time, pretty wonderful time together.
And people enjoy it, and so it doesn't always have to be something of heavy or something that's really wrenching. You can also just have fun.
Yeah.
I mean, fun's a good thing. In spite of what we teach, fun is really good.
Fun is good. That will be our slogan for the show. Fun is good.
Fun is good.
Well, we're coming up on Halloween, and I'm sure I will wear a costume, but I'm not sure what it will be, because I think fun is good. So, but I think we could continue talking about success and these sort of relationships between mindfulness for a long time, and I think we will follow up on it. It seems all of our shows seem to build a little bit on the one before, so that's what I like about it. And I'm hoping that next time we can talk a little bit more about the Consulting Alliance. I was trying to hint at that a little, and sort of go more into depth at what some of the things that organizations like the Jeff Miller Consulting Alliance offer, and sort of talk more about how companies can utilize these tools.
Let's put it on the agenda.
All right, that sounds great. Well, thank you so much, Jeff, for coming in today, and look forward to seeing you later this week, and hope you have a great day.
Charlie, thanks. One last thing.
Yes.
Let's go Mets.
Let's go Mets.
The Jeff Miller Show is brought to you by Podcast Village, located at Launch Workplaces in Gaithersburg, Maryland. If you would like to contact Jeff or Charlie, please tweet to @PodcastVillage or @JeffMillConsult. You can also email Jeff at jeff@jmconsultingalliance.com.